Yeah.
So,
Dirty. Welcome to Cho Braymeyer Presents.
here we are, James.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting on the live boogie board now, which is kind of fun, right? I feel like this is like a Marsha Lenz deal at like 3:30 in the afternoon.
Now,
Live and
is that a
uncool.
stock like song that you picked, or did you have somebody play something for you?
This particular song here is basically a remix song that I just stumbled across online. And then what I did is I put the voiceover in at the beginning.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you know what's funny? That's my voice.
Nuh-uh.
That's my voice
that was a
saying
chick.
that, and it's an AI filter, and I just picked a good-looking or
Female.
good-sounding,
Yeah.
imaginably good-looking chick to make the announcement. So we are here with James Draper, Quad City comedian,
Correct.
who I up until 15 minutes ago have never met or really ever spoken to. James, I follow your content on social media. I see a lot of your stuff on Facebook. I knew you were a comedian, and I thought to myself, I see this guy's presence. I should have you on the show because I've never had a comedian on the show because we're just kind of getting this thing started.
Well,
So
I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to interacting and at least putting my face in other places so that, it's not just the content on Facebook, there's more to it.
Yeah, because those are just like clips and, you're kind of performing in a
I'll throw
way.
a joke or something out there once in a while. I usually don't put a lot of meaningful content on there. It's just jokes and stuff. And that's the only thing I use is Facebook. I used to use Twitter years ago and nobody cared.
Yeah.
So it was like, well, at least I'm getting some kind of feedback on Facebook. So I just dropped Twitter and I put everything on there on Facebook.
Speaking of X, so that's probably the least visited platform that I get on. And I got back on X over the weekend, and I bet I haven't been on there probably since Elon took over. Like I just haven't. And I logged on and I'm like, oh my, this is intense. Like
really?
the level of intenseness in the content is it's just way up. Like they just show more intense scenes and different like street fights and stuff that you wouldn't see that on Instagram.
Well, they gotta compete with TikTok. I mean, TikTok
they do.
has flipping everything you can think of, and those 2 5-second, 10-second clips. Sometimes they're a little longer, but you'll see those, and it's just and fighting and sex. That's always you're sitting there looking for a fishing video, and you gotta filter through 100 other videos. So you got to compete. So they're going to go ahead and put that stuff up first, the fighting and the drama and everything, to where I got to look at this for a minute. What the heck?
You know what I thought of today? Actually, I thought of it yesterday because it was so nice out. We are staring down the barrel of garage sale season.
Yeah.
Are you a garage sailor?
I am not. As a matter of fact, I need to have a garage sale.
Well, how about a private one? I'll just come over and I'll offer you a bulk amount. I'll just flat rate for the whole thing.
One of those consignment stores. Just come through and pick something out, and I'll give you a price. Yeah.
So you don't go to garage sales? Man, I love garage sales.
I have enough crap as it is. I don't need someone else's crap.
Do you collect stuff, or do you just have stuff?
I don't say I collect stuff. I have certain things that are given to me, or once in a while I'll buy, and they kind of go together. So
like
I
what?
have a collection, like football cards. I have those, and I don't go out shopping. I don't go to, cons or anything like that. Comic books. I seen you had some comic books up here. I have some old ones that I've collected. If someone gives me one, I'm like, cool, and I'll put it in my stash with my collection of stuff. But I'm not pursuing it all the time, that kind of thing. I've got Steelers stuff, and then maybe that's just being a fan, but when I can find it or I get it for a gift, I'm definitely holding on to that or displaying it. You can't get to that stuff around here, so usually it's Christmas, kind of like underwear. I only get it during Christmas time.
Yeah. So doesn't it make it harder though when things like that are given to you? It's almost harder to get rid of it when you probably should.
Yeah, definitely. It's got a little more meaning behind it. There's stuff at my home that I never use, but someone gave it to me and has a little meaning to it. So I'll still have it displayed, or I'm like, I'm not going to throw that away. It's still going to sit in the drawer or wherever it's at.
Let's talk comedy.
Okay.
Stand-up comedy, I think, is one of the hardest things somebody can ever do, as far as just overcoming maybe an anxiety or an apprehension or a fear or anything like that. You know, like let's say you are terrified of roller coasters, right? If you can just get yourself to get in and strap in, well, you're committed and you're going to do it anyway.
Right.
And no matter what, whether you enjoyed it or you screamed or cried the whole time, you still did it.
Right.
Stand-up comedy is different, because you're not getting on the roller coaster is just stepping onto the stage.
Yeah.
Now you got to actually perform. You don't just get to go along for the ride. You are the ride.
What's funny is a roller coaster is a great analogy.
I just thought of that, by the way.
Well,
That was
when
like my Socratean moment just now. Yeah, I don't know why that came to me.
when you go up there and you do it, you're either going to throw up or you're going to be like, wee, and want to go again and again and again, you know?
Yeah.
And when you get, I don't know, when you get into it, you get addicted to it, you want to do it all the time. You don't care what kind of roller coaster. I'll do the little kiddie ones. I'll do the loop-de-loops, you know, the big stages. I'll do these little bars, and these are the kind of things. And it's funny, you know, you brought up the anxiety and stuff. I was never really afraid to get on stage. When I was in high school, I was always into drama. I wanted to act, and I never had a problem getting on stage. The thing is, and this is funny for me, because I never acted in the plays in school because they were always musicals. And it pissed me off because I wanted to be a drama guy. I wanted to do drama. And
Dude, I'm talking to myself, or you're talking to yourself here. Like, I think you are talking to you here, man. This is crazy.
So I was like, I don't want to be in a musical. Then, you know, years later, I told somebody I was going to try doing stand-up. And they're like, aren't you afraid? You know, isn't that going to freak you out? I'm like, nah, I've been on stage. And I get on stage and the lights hit me, and it did freak me out. You know, those lights are bright, you know, and you can't see anybody. You know, there's a full audience or whoever's out there, and you can't see any faces. And it freaks you out for a moment, you know. But what I was getting at was I never did any plays because they were musicals. Now that I'm a comedian and on stage, I have at least 6 different songs that I sing. And I include at least one, if not 2 or 3 on each of my sets. So
because when you're like in high school, when you've got the mic and you're performing comedy or some sort of original thing, it's cool. For me, singing was not cool, and I just couldn't get my head around that. Same deal. I only went out for chorus. I endured all through chorus because the chorus had the variety show. And I always and that was my opportunity to perform in the variety show. Same thing. I mean, but now I think singing in public is a fun challenge to do.
Well, I can tell you, having the songs, number one, it's memorable. You know, people remember the songs. I have, you know, people come up to, I was just leaving the other day and I, you know, did this and I thought of you. It's hard to remember them all the time and, you know, keep that rhythm going. And the songs are a lot of fun. They're great closers, you know, those kind of things. So it's kind of my crutch, my little cheat. You know, I can go up there and tell all the jokes.
And you write parody songs and you write...
No, they're not parody. They're original songs. And I don't have a guitar or piano or anything. They're always a cappella.
Do you have some of that of James? I'm sure on his... Look for that, will you, Katie? Please and thank you. So you write your own songs, you perform your own songs. And I think that's good to have. That's just another club in the bag that you've got that you can pull out on stage. And the more versatile you are.
Well, and I was always afraid of. Now, when I grew up, you had guys like Bobcat Goldthwait, who had this character, you know, and he always had to be that character.
Is this you? You?
Yeah, that's me. I'm not sure if I've got any song on this.
This was where was this at?
Hour?
The comedy.
Yeah, the Comedy Bar. No, this is a short clip.
Where was this at?
This is a Comedy Bar in Dubuque. It's closed now. Jesters had taken over once they closed, and then now Jesters is closed. This was a fantastic venue. They had this beautiful basement, this nice, big, elegant room, and then the bar was outside of the showroom. Like my first, the first place I performed was Penguins over in Davenport when it was at Front Street. Or what do you call that?
Is it
Where
by
Front
the Village?
Street is, where Front Street is, next to the Modern Woodman Park. What the hell's that called?
Oh, the paper district or whatever. It's in that
That
where the
building,
Davenport
yeah.
Printing Company was, right? And that right across the street from there. I don't know.
Anyway, Penguins was in there, and they had this huge showroom, and then the bar was separate. And I always thought that was great, mainly because people can order the drinks and bullshit and all that stuff out in the lobby, and then when you're inside, you're quiet and listening and watching the show. And that was something I loved about the Comedy Bar. You had this nice, intimate, cool showroom, but then the bar was separate. And what was neat about the Comedy Bar / Jesters is they had this window to where while you're ordering drinks, you can look over and you can watch the show going on. You can see that, you can still kind of hear them or whatever. But I thought that was cool. That was a little different than Penguins, but it's nice when they have the bar separate from the showroom.
Let's dive into the weeds a little bit on just the underground comedy ecosystem. Mm-hmm. There's like a fairly large but very close-knit group of comedians that all just kind of run the circuit together, isn't there? Or does it ebb and flow?
It kind of depends on where you're at.
Talk to me about Quad Cities specifically.
Well, the Quad Cities specifically, we have a scene, but it's a very small scene. We have probably 10, 12, maybe more, maybe closer to 20 that are doing it all the time. They're hitting all the mics that we have around here, or they're going further out. What's great about the Quad Cities is we're close to a lot of other places. We don't have to go 3-hour drive. We can go within an hour. So we have about 20, and then there's a good, maybe another 15 or 20 that are doing it off and on here and there. You've got maybe 5 or 10 that are really good that can, perform, headline, those kind of things. But you have a wide range. What's great is if you ever go to a Circa 21 Speakeasies Laugh Hard, that's a mic I started 15 years ago. It's been running this entire time. It fills every single month. There's it's the third Friday of each month, and every time it's packed. It's packed with an audience, and we have almost 20 comics, and you'll see a range. People doing it, their second or third time, and then you got people doing it, people like
if you were to say, like, hey, if you wanted to get your beak wet as far as an audience member for the Quad City comedy options that you have, is this event that you're talking about, would that be like a good one to go grab some friends and go out to?
That's a good one to go and watch.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If you're trying it for if you're trying to do stand-up the first time, I would not suggest that.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. Number one, it's going to be nerve-wracking as hell because it's a beautiful, it looks like you're on an HBO special. It's a beautiful room. It's a packed house. There's a lot of pressure on you. And 2, if you're going up for the first time, you're going to screw up this awesome show. You're going to go up there, you're going to stammer, you're going to stutter, you're not going to do your time, you're going to, do all this and that. And if you walk a table, that kind of sucks, that's why I would recommend not trying that room for the first time. There's other smaller rooms you can, there's like Broken Saddle. They do that on every other Tuesday. And that's a room where there's a little pressure because everyone's waiting to do karaoke. So they're sick of the comics being up there.
Oh, gotcha.
But it's a good room to where it doesn't matter. You're going to go up and people are going to bark at you or they're not. They're, sometimes they're listening. Skylark in Rock Island every Wednesday. That's a good room to go, and a very small room, a nice, close, intimate.
So how involved are you on the day-to-day of stand-up comedy? Are you on stage once a week? Once a month? Like what does James Draper do?
I'm at least once, if not twice a week. I used to go to Cedar Rapids and Peoria and everywhere else I could get when there wasn't something going on in the Quad Cities. And then, after a while, I've been doing this 17 years. After a while, you're like, why spend the money? I'm spending money going back and forth and time and I'm not getting paid for it. And when, I can get shows and get paid, if I'm going to travel, then, it's worth my time and, effort. But
Can you make any money in the Quad Cities? Like,
definitely.
You can make money in the Quad Cities doing stand-up comedy.
Yes. Not a living.
No, but like, give me
money.
some specifics. Give me some actual dollars. Give me some, for instance. Like, hey, Joe, for instance,
it depends on your level.
Let's say you're one of the top 3 comedians in the Quad Cities. What's an average gig pay for those people?
I would say if you're doing a half an hour, if you're a good comic and you're doing a half an hour, I would charge $100-$150. Some others would charge more. 200.
Okay. And who
if
pays?
you're going an hour, I would charge closer to more like $300, $350 for an hour. And that's only because no one's heard of me. If I had a TV credit behind me, then I'm charging 2 or 3 times that much.
See?
For the hour.
Look at that. Just because this podcast doesn't even have to be good. I can just say I'm a podcaster. I don't know what I'm going to talk about for an hour.
See,
but
and I've had 2 podcasts. I've been on TV. I've done this and that. I've done a lot of things, and unless you're in a great big city and you've got some adoration from those who count. The producers and stuff, those, then you're going to go ahead and get in and get, a TV show and those kind of things. But it's few and far between. And, you've got these awesome, amazing comedians out there that are, blazing it, just killing it everywhere they go. And, people, I say, hey, man, I'm working with so-and-so. And they're like, who's that? I'm like, really? You don't know who that is? And, yeah, so...
meaning the general public doesn't know
well,
who
there's
that...
certain people, I'm like, wow, how would you not know who... we just had Gabriel Rutledge through here, and I'm like, man, I just did a show with Gabriel Rutledge. That was awesome. They're like, who's Gabriel? I'm like, how do you not know who that is?
Pull up Gabriel Rutledge. I don't know.
You've probably seen him before.
I bet you if once we see a picture
and stuff, he's great. Jeff Dye is another guy who's come through, and he's been on Bob and Tom. Kostaki, Economopoulos. The Renwick Mansion, they put on some great shows, and they pull in some comics from, a lot of Bob and Tom guys who performed all over the country. And what's great about the Renwick is, talk about an intimate show. You're in this mansion, this house, and they're on a stage, and you've got maybe 45, 50 people, maybe a little more. I could be shortchanging it, but it's a very small room, and it's just a blast, and it's just everyone's close and tight.
That's another
huge.
local venue.
The Renwick Mansion. See, and you
put a pin in that for a second, because I want to. This guy's got 300,000 followers on Facebook. Yeah. Like, you know how hard that is to get that on Facebook? Well, maybe not. I don't know.
Comedian, and he performs. He headlines, clubs.
So this guy was a headliner, and you were one of the undercards on the thing, that's huge. That's a huge opportunity.
When you get to
all right, go back to James. I'd rather see James stuff.
You've heard of Michael Winslow, right? The guy who does the voices from Police Academy.
That guy I do know.
Got to perform with him before. So there's benefits. You say, well, I'm not doing anywhere. I'm not going anywhere, doing anything special or anything. And then you go, well, I got to perform with this guy. I got to do that thing. I got to, this was neat. That was neat. Some great memories.
How do you come up with your stuff?
It's not on purpose.
So when something, walk me through it. When the thought first enters your head to by the time it comes out of the mic on stage, what's that process like for you?
It's honestly, something pops in my head and I go, that's a funny thought. And I go, well, how do I expand on that? And then, I'm writing it down.
You write it down.
And then, I'll sit there and kind of run through my brain. And if it makes me laugh, I'm like, okay, that's good. It might not be all the way there. And so sometimes I'll set it aside. There's jokes that I've had to where I wrote it out. I tried it on stage and it wasn't that great. And then 5 years later, I'm writing another joke and I go, oh man, that one thing, that would be a great tag. Ooh, this would segue to this next joke. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's why a lot of comics will tell you, don't throw anything away, because as crappy as that joke was, it wasn't getting a good response. It tied in so perfectly with this other joke. And then, now instead of a 2-minute joke, now I've got a 4-minute little bit, and then
and possibly something you can bring around to at the end and really knock them out.
A chance for a callback kind of thing, especially when they hit really good. By the end, if you bring that back in a quick little 2-second joke. That's another thing. Writing jokes, they're not all these long stories and stuff. A lot of times it's like,
No.
oh, well, that's just a silly, fun thing. So you write it down and you're like,
yeah,
how do I fit that into my set? I'm supposed to do 25 minutes. Okay, well, I'm going to plan 24 minutes and 30 seconds so I can fit this 30-second one in, it's weird. And that's another wonderful thing I love about doing this, writing jokes, is, figuring out, how does this work? How do I word this right? Like, you might have a joke, but if I say it like that, it's not as funny as if I said
yes.
And in finding that placement. And then now I have to take all of those separate little entities and make them flow into a big whole set, to make it make sense. And
because it really is storytelling. Yeah, it's just like putting the pieces together. Like, if you ever have like a big, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I should say I'm a joke writer teller. I don't do a lot of crowd work. Sometimes people say something, sometimes they'll say something back. A lot of times, if there's any heckling, rarely there are, but sometimes when there's heckling, a lot of times I try to ignore it.
You'll tune it out. You won't play ping pong.
If someone, but I mean, I'm not going to go after somebody right away. But if the same person, I'm hearing them a couple of times, then I'm going to be like, look, and what's great is, I hate to, come off a little too cocky, but I have a pretty good bunch of jokes, and 90% of the time people aren't heckling. And if someone does heckle, I can wait a second and the crowd will turn to them and say, shut the hell up.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's a little superpower I have, is sometimes you come out strong and then you get that crowd behind you. When someone does say something, that crowd is like, nope, you get the hell out of here. I'm not dealing with it. I need to listen to what this guy's saying. And so that's, something I'm pretty.
Do you ever just come up with punchlines with no joke to go with it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's how I write. It's
Yeah.
something, oh man, that made me laugh. Well, how does this fit into, a narrative?
You could use it somewhere.
I had there's a joke, I don't know, I think at the end of this I might have the what was it? The big game hunting joke. And it was just a silly thought about, because I would see these pictures of guys, beaming with pride over an elephant.
Like the Jimmy John's owner. Like, have you seen that?
You
like,
see him over an elephant. And I'm like,
or laying butt naked on a shark, or like a hammerhead shark. Like, what are you doing?
Right?
But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I mean, with the elephant, I'm like, what are you so proud of? Like, good shot there, Hawkeye.
Some guy drove you out there. He helped you put up your rifle. He's like, now you see that dot all the way over there.
And that's the other thing. Like this, there's this long joke, but the original thought was, this whole elephant thing, and why is that guy so proud? And then I thought, okay, well, what do I? There's a lot of other examples that make big game hunting silly, and so I've got elephant and a lion and a giraffe. I close with the giraffe and. That always gets a pretty good laugh. But it's one of those things where it's just, I got this silly thought. I'm like, okay, how do I build on that? Or sometimes it's because I'll get silly thoughts all the time. And sometimes you're just like, well, brush it off or whatever. But there's certain ones I'm like, oh, no, there's something there. There is definitely something there. And then I will sit down. Sometimes, like with the latest song that I wrote, I just thought of like one line, and then I'm like, that's kind of catchy. Maybe if I do this, and what else, and what else, and I sat there for a good 3 hours, not I didn't set out to write down this song. I just was like, that's kind of, and then I sit there.
Just reflecting.
Yeah. And then you practice it and you're like, well, it needs a little more or it needs a little less. There's one joke I had that I actually have koozies for now. Oh, I meant to bring my merch in.
You didn't bring me any gifts, James?
I got merch.
I have you drive all the way here.
I was so worried about having
to sit in a room
place.
where I'm already going to be anyway, and you don't even bring me a gift.
I was like, am I at the right place? So I was more worried about that. But the koozies that I have, I just had like a couple of jokes off of this thing I read, and my wife, and I was sitting there telling it to my wife, I was like, that's pretty funny, right? But I feel like there needs to be more. She's like, well, why don't you just write a song for it? And I go, okay. And 10 minutes later, I had a song for it. And then that song led to the merch that I have. And it's usually I close on that song. And it's funny because I had this little joke, this little funny little observation about a headline that I read. And I'm like, there needs to be more. It feels stupid to bring up this thing for one little joke. And she's like, well, why don't you write a song too? You got all these other songs. Yeah, all right.
That's great, and that's how the good ones happen. They just happen organically.
They just happen. You know, sometimes I force a joke. I used to do something called Tuesday Joke Day.
Okay, hit me.
Well, it's
Tuesday today. Yeah, we got to dust off the bottle.
Yeah. So it was a few years that I would put a post out there on every Tuesday. Today's Tuesday Joke Day. I'd say something silly, mention anything at all, and I will write a joke out of it. So I would have people
that's kind of fun
on Facebook. Whatever you comment with, I use that in a joke. And so sometimes people just something off the top of their head. Some people would challenge me. I had a comic out of Peoria that would mess with me a lot. You know, he'd put down a list of words, and then I'm like, well, how do I use all this in one joke? And then I think there was a couple of times where I was like, I got it. And I found a way to organize all those words into a list. And then it was a story joke. And, you know, anyway, I got done with it. I posted it. And then he comments back, God damn it, James.
So this was a deal where you would make a post, like a static word post, and then give me your best joke. And then people
No, I would say, give me anything. Like, pineapple.
Was this like a video? Like, how did you get the word out? It was like a post on Facebook.
It was just a post
and
on
then
Facebook,
the comments.
And then they would comment, and then throughout the day, I would look on there. Someone said pineapple, so I'd write a joke that had pineapple in it, and then I would tag the person so it would show up on their wall, and they would get the joke.
Sure.
And whoever else happened to see it would see it, and I noticed after several years I wasn't using jokes that I wrote on Facebook. I wasn't. I would write jokes and put them out there, and my brain was just, oh, well, that's done. That's done. That's done. That joke is over with, and so I would never do it. The stand-up jokes were completely separate from my Facebook jokes. So, and I remember thinking, God, that's a huge resource.
Yeah, that's a treasure trove.
A lot of stuff. And so, was it last year or the year before? I started looking back. I could go to the memories. And I would go, well, because if I go up on my memories, any day there's a Tuesday Joke Day. Because there was, I don't know, like I said, 5, 7, 10 years.
I would imagine you're pulling those out and using them now,
every day
right?
I pull it up. Yeah, I'll pull up a memory, and there'll be a Tuesday Joke Day on there. And, a lot of them were pretty lame, but there were some really good ones out there. Someone would suggest something, and I would do it differently. It wasn't always, what do you get when you cross this? Sometimes it was a list of things. Here's my list of something, and I would include part of what their comment on the joke.
Let me ask you this: with being a stand-up comic and the need to have a strong social media presence, is it difficult to find the balance because you would love to post all of your stand-up stuff on social media, but do some comics hold some of their material back from social media because they don't want to ruin the joke for people who then come to the show? So how do you produce fresh content that doesn't spoil all the fun for the live stand-up show and vice versa?
Right. And sometimes you have to I found this out recently. I did a show, and a guy had come up to me after the show, and he goes, I was hoping you did that one joke. I saw it and I was like, oh, you've been to a show? And he's like, no, I saw the video on YouTube. I was like, what? I forgot I had a couple of videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
He was like, I was so happy that you did that joke. I was waiting for it. And that made me think, oh, well, it's not always a waste. Sometimes people will see that and they'll go to the show expecting to see that.
Maybe it's just like a rock concert. Maybe you want to see Metallica play Enter Sandman or whatever.
My brain was in the same place where I'm like, well, I can't put all my stuff out there because then when I go to a show, they're like, we already saw this. You know what I mean? Why am I hearing jokes I already heard before?
Yeah.
So
that would be my reservation.
But it's also a good motivator to make you write more, to say, okay, well, I don't want to give you the same thing, but at the same time, if you saw a 15-minute clip, 2, 3, 5 minutes might be used out of that, but my set, I'm usually different. I don't try and do the same exact set. I have a lot of jokes that are in my sets that are always, there's an opening that I almost always use. There's a frame that I use, but then there's all these little other brand new jokes and maybe a brand new song come out. So I have to do that. I have to, I try and change it up. I don't want people coming and seeing the same exact set that they saw last time. You might hear a couple of jokes that you heard before, but it's never, I try and make sure that it's never the same exact set you saw the time that you saw me before. So
that's not easy to do.
No, it isn't. But at the same time, you throw in, you keep writing. There's always opportunities to change it up. I have a few hours worth of material. So
do you ever feel the need? I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. Let me ask it to you this way. Are you a social guy? Like you and your wife, like you guys, your wife's not.
She's not. Yeah.
So that can be sometimes difficult because you want to be able to go out and when you have an introvert and an extrovert, you got to find that common ground.
I'm not as social as most or as successful comedians are. I get out and about. I try and go to these mics and network with people and stuff. But I'm not popular. You know what I mean? I'm not, I don't go out to have a drink and suddenly everybody shows up,
well, tell me who that guy is.
Most of the time I'm hanging out with other comics. That's another funny thing is, once you become a comedian, all the friends that you had before are acquaintances, and then all these new people are your friends. Because
why?
Because you're focusing on that. It's just like any other career,
Oh, meaning it's just a natural thing.
Yeah, they're kind of doing their own thing, and then
I didn't know if there was an element of.
But don't get me wrong. I mean, some of us get a little bitter because there's only so many times people can say, "When's your next show?" before you're like, "You're not going to come anyway."
It's like a
you know what I mean.
It's just a filler conversation.
Right,
it's just a way to.
And so then you're like, okay, well they're not that interested, and if they are, I've got friends who have come to shows once in a while, and I don't know, I don't feel bad that I don't see them all the time, But if I do see them once in a while, my brother and sister-in-law, they'll come to a show once in a blue moon. My younger brother, he shows up pretty often, but he goes drinking with me a lot. So that's a part of it.
Well, yeah. The reason why I ask about the social part, because if you had it your way, you would be out mingling and networking every free minute you had, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Do you ever get what I call the sad clown syndrome? Meaning, like, do you ever feel like you're among a big group of people and you got to be on just because you're kind of known as the funny guy? No,
I do not. Not around people socially. No, I do not. I try and avoid throwing any kind of jokes. And matter of fact,
really, you won't be the life of the party when you show up somewhere.
I mean, I'll party and hang out and I'm joking and stuff, but I'm never taking my material and testing it out on people or, telling someone, well, how's this joke sound? Or what if I did this? I'm never doing it. I rarely do that with other comics. I'm just, let's hang out. I've got my notes in my phone. That's a separate thing. I don't want to be that guy because that gets annoying. I've been around that guy a lot.
It's campfire guitar guy.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. I mean, yeah, you're very talented and it's cool. You can play songs, but I mean, all the time, really?
Yeah.
Come on, dude, have a personality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thing. Like when you start to build up this whatever idea of yourself and what you want to do but you want to give everyone a good experience when you're around them, so you feel like you want to,
I don't know. I always feel I shine bright enough on stage that, if I'm not on stage, then I don't need the spotlight. I don't want to say I've never been that way, but when I was a little kid, okay, I've always wanted to be in comedy since 4 years old. Watching. I mean,
I wanted to ask you about that, like the whole.
So when I was little, I would do impressions. I would do voices. I thought Rich Little was amazing because he could do all these voices. After I got older, I'm like, it's all the same voice. It's just in a different context, Ronald Reagan and so and so.
Can I pry really quick though?
Yeah.
And did you have like a traditional childhood? Mom and dad both at home?
Yeah, well, I think I was 10 and they got divorced. My mom moved us to Tucson, Arizona, lived there for 3 years till she passed away, and then we moved back to the Quad Cities, lived with my dad.
So are you estranged from your dad for like 3 years and then you come back and then move in with him, which that's got to be kind of like a weird thing.
It wasn't too bad. I mean, we were pretty close with my dad. Before the divorce and everything, there was never any like animosity. It was a little weird. We knew that he had cheated on mom and that kind of thing. But my younger brother and I were a little young and
still dad.
Yeah, it's still dad. We weren't quite sure exactly everything that was going on. My older brother, he's 7 years older than me, so he was aware of what was going on, and he never had like a thing against him or anything. So we were never like apart, So when we showed up, when he picked us up and took us back here, it really wasn't an issue. I think my main worry was, yay, I get to go fishing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a cool boat, and it was that was something I missed about the Quad Cities was we'd go boating and fishing and all that stuff every weekend. And when we went to Arizona, I didn't have that. It was just desert and dirt and yeah.
So, all right. I think that's a whole nother thing. Here, will you put that on airplane mode or something? I was going to pull something up my phone. That's why the stupid thing keeps ringing. But, okay, I'd love to dive into that at some point here, but I want to somewhat keep on task. So, sadly, mom passes away. You move back to the QC with dad. You're about 10 years old.
Yeah.
Mom and dad both loved comedy?
Mom, yeah. We would sit and watch Carol Burnett and Saturday Night Live with my mom a lot. There were times, we would laugh so freaking hard. You wouldn't know because I'm fat, but I have the abs of Schwarzenegger, man.
Stealth abs.
Because I laugh so hard. I would almost make myself sick. I couldn't breathe. We would laugh at us laughing about the thing that we were laughing about.
And you remember that from when you were 7, 8, 9 years old.
And I just always wanted to be in it. And so as a little kid, like I said, there was people who do impersonations and stuff. So I would, impersonate like Eddie Murphy and, whoever was famous at the time, Bobcat Goldthwait. I would, those voices and stuff. But then anytime we go somewhere, a family member would be like, hey, Jamie at the time. Hey, Jamie, why don't you go ahead and do that voice? And then I'd go to do it, but I do it wrong, right? I needed a moment. I'm 7 years old. Yeah, I need a minute to let me get the voice and hold on.
That's
you know
great.
what I mean? So people would say, Jamie, go ahead and do that voice, and then I wouldn't do it right away, and they'd go, oh, this is great, yeah, neat. And so I early on I got to bomb like hard. And I was like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. Stop asking me to do voices in front of people. Like, I'll do voices, we'll hang out and have fun, and I'll come up with a voice when I can. And so to this day, I do one impression. on stage. I have one joke where I do an impression. I stay away from impersonations. I stay away from that because as a kid, I I tried and I failed horribly once I got in front of people, and I was just like, nope, not going to do that again.
Do you ever reflect on that? Like, I collect a lot of stuff, but I collect a lot of stuff from my childhood because I had a happy childhood, and it just makes me happy when I look at that stuff. Yeah. It's a simpler time. I mean, in some way, is comedy like an attachment to your mom and the memories you guys have there? Have you never really thought about it that way?
Yeah, I've never really thought about it.
I mean, you were talking about that and you were glowing. Like you were literally glowing when you were telling me about when you were little and watching these shows, and it's like, well, you're a comedian now, and it's like, isn't that twice a week you get to go back to a super happy time?
Kind of. I like knowing I like knowing or believing that whatever I did made someone else laugh like that. That I made someone else, hurt from laughing. That they got the tears rolling down. They're laughing about it. I like the thought that. I love the thought that I can do that, but at the same time, it wasn't an intention. It wasn't like something I set out to do. It wasn't. Trying to be close to my mom by doing. I didn't actually get the chance to start doing comedy until I was 32.
What finally made you do it?
I found out there was an open mic.
It was just that simple. It's like, I can do this. I'm going to go do it.
When I was 1920, the Chantilly Lace. You remember that?
I remember that place. I never went there, but I remember that name.
They had a Funny Bone upstairs, and my friend, who I'm still very good friends with, he was a bar back at Chantilly Lace, so he knew the guy hosting the show. And so, 1920 was all, I'm like, oh, finally, there's a comedy club in the Quad Cities. I can actually get an opportunity to do this. So I find out, okay, well, it's a 21 only. I'm like, can you get me to talk with one of the comics or something? Yeah, I'll get it with the house comic. And the house comic at the time was Louis Knob. And Louis was nice enough to give me a minute. And there I was, like a high school news reporter. Let me ask all these questions.
That's great.
And I was like, so I really want to be a comedian. Like, how do I do it? And I'll never forget the answer. I said, how do you do it? How do you become a comedian? And Louis puts down his drink and he looks at me and he says, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What is that? What do you mean? Just got to do it. What does that mean? I said, well, what do you mean just got to do it? He's like, you got to go out there. You got to go to the open mics. You got to just try. You have to get on stage and try and do it. And at the time I was like, well, that's some bullshit advice. I was like, is there an open mic here? He's like, no, the Funny Bone, they don't do an open mic. They don't do it. They just do their showcases and that's it. He's like, you got to go to places that have an open mic. I'm like, well, where's that? He's like, you got to go like in Cedar Rapids.
And now you can go anywhere.
Or you got to go to Chicago, or you got to go. And I was like, okay, cool. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm going to go all the way to, I'm going to drive 3 hours to maybe get on stage. And I got, I've got work to do. I've got this to do. I got school to do. We'll figure it out. One of these days there's going to be a club. And completely, it's one of those, what do you call it? Just a dream that's just unreachable. Not going to happen. One day I'm at work, at my desk. A friend at work sends an email. And he says, hey, I'm thinking about trying the open mic. What do you think of this? And he sent a paragraph. And I'm reading the paragraph. I'm really just scanning it over, thinking to myself, there's an open mic. There's an open mic.
Yeah. How do I do this open mic? Is there an address on this piece of paper?
Yeah. That's exactly where I replied to him. When is it? When are you doing up? What time is it? Blah, blah.
Yeah.
So he tells me, and I went and checked it out. I tried to do it that first time. I didn't tell anybody. I want a genuine response.
But you had jokes standing by, when the opportunity presented itself. When I found out,
I sat down and wrote. I wrote what I thought was 10 minutes. I was like, I went over it over and over.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, okay, this is 10 minutes. And I remember going to Penguins, and they said, we'll give you get 5 minutes, which is long. If you go to Chicago, LA, New York, they give you 2 or 3 minutes, for an open mic. but you get to hit 3 of them in a night. Anyway, so like, we'll give you 5 minutes. We'll give you a light at 4. Okay. All right. So I go up, I ran through all my material, had not seen a light yet. I'm like, oh crap. What do I do now? You know? So I ended up telling a joke that I was working on. And that was the only time I told that joke. The only time I've ever told that joke. And I'll never forget it. It's a dumb joke. It's a dumb,
Let me hear it.
Horrible,
Let me hear it.
Horrible joke. Okay. So the joke goes, all right, guys, you have to admit that there is such a thing as a beautiful penis, right? You have to admit that, right? And it's the after sex dick, right? The after sex dick,
Yeah.
because it's hard, long, but it's soft,
Yeah,
right? So,
correct.
So you feel like a porn star, right? You're swinging that thing around. You got the curtains open, right? You're throwing that thing over the shoulder, telling your wife, "I'll be back in a minute. I got to take this thing
Sure.
down." You know what I mean? So that basically was the joke. The funny part about that was, okay, this is my first time on stage, and I thought it would be funny to come out and say, "Hi guys, this is James. You know, it's my first time ever on stage." You know, and I do that. For some reason, I thought that would be funny. And so I run out of time, and I'm like, "Well, damn it! Now I have to tell this joke that I'm working on to fill in the time." And I'm like, "Okay, I already cleared the air and said I'm not gay, but you have to admit there is such a thing as a." So I did that joke and saw the light, and I'm like, whew, and I get out of there. But yeah, and that was the only time I told that joke on stage. I didn't have it rounded off quite right, but then, like I said, I never worked on it.
It was all there. There was maybe just that last little arrow that, you know.
The weird thing, when I first started, I wanted a different 5 minutes every time I went up.
What do you mean by that?
I needed a new set every time. I do a set, and then
meaning new 5 minutes worth of material.
Yeah, every single time. And after about, I don't know, 6 or 7 months, the host is like, you know, you can keep working on those other jokes. You don't have to write new stuff every single time. They're like, that's really cool. That's great. You know, you're not. I was like, I'm just so worried. I didn't want people to see me doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And he's like, I get it, but you know, it's an open mic.
And these are new people coming in and out.
And we rarely get a crowd anyway. Why not practice the ones that you have written and you know that are good? You know?
Yeah.
And so then I started doing that, and that really helped out. Oh, you brought up anxiety. I started this an hour ago. I meant to say what helped me a lot in stand-up as far as with my anxiety and nerves. I was also a member of Blacklist. I was an improv. I did improv for a while. And
shouldn't everybody do improv, by the way?
I think so.
I mean, what a good skill to have.
So. I mean, as far as entertainment, it's weird, it's awkward, it's, you know, sometimes it's lame. I always had a blast doing it.
But it really challenges your brain and your guts.
It helped me. So I did stand up for 2 years, almost 2 years. And I started doing the improv. And I noticed after a while, there was a time I went up on stage. I would get up for 2 years. I would get up every time I grab a drink. Yeah, I'm shaking like a leaf, you know, and I'm like, I'm not that nervous. Why am I shaking? I'm shaking like
it's crazy. Like a physical reaction. Yeah.
Well, then, you know, I do improv for a little while, and then I'm doing this, you know, nice long set, and I reach for my drink, and I'm like, I remember being on stage. I grab my drink and I look. I'm like, huh. It's just sitting there. It's not shaking. I didn't point it out or anything. It took me a second. I was like, huh.
It's almost like the people that have like, it's almost like sometimes you see those cases where people with like severe Tourette's or whatever can't carry on a conversation, but the minute they start singing, like they can just sing a beautiful song, but to do the conversation, it's almost like your brain goes into some different kind of fight or flight mode. I don't know. I'm sure somebody far smarter than I could explain that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it was just, I really had to work out those nerves. And they say, and I'll agree, stage time. If you're a comedian, just get on stage. You know, not everything has to be killer. You know, get on stage over and over and over and over and over again. And that helped me, you know, being on stage so often with improv. You know, I'm not on an open mic every night. I'm not.
Are there politics involved in comedy? Not like material wise, in the ecosystem itself.
Yes. I mean, just like I would think any other job, you've got, people who, do the job really good. You have people who do the job well, but they don't give a crap about, the thing. And then you got people who don't give a crap and think that it's easy. And then you got, just like any other job you have, if someone comes in and they're disrespecting what you're doing, if, they're, pretending like everything you do is simple, and then they're going to get shunned, that kind of thing.
And that does happen.
It does often. We just recently had a guy. Okay, so we recently had a guy, and he came back, I think. But this guy, he comes in. It's his first time.
Who's we? The community.
So Chris Starman, Cassandra Johnson, and I host an open mic in Rock Island at the Skylark.
Okay, you were talking about that earlier. Yeah. Yes. So when you say we had come into your event,
and probably when I'm saying that, I just as the comedy community we had this guy come in, and he was trying it for his first time, and right off the bat he was like insulting the hosts and other comedians.
On stage?
That was his humor. He thought
that was
he could
like
just
his
come
shtick.
up and roast everybody. And so he comes up, and everyone's liking all these other comedians, and then he comes up and starts roasting, and tell whatever jokes you want, that's fine. But the audience is like, you're talking about the people I just got to like. I just saw these people. I clapped for them.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
They're good, and then you come up here. So the room was.
You come off as a bully.
Silent. Yeah, that's exactly how he came off. And then, so then the next week, I think he came back, and he tried to be just as aggressive, but then his material, and I think maybe the vibe was still there. So people get shunned, people get turned away, and there are politics. There are I don't want to say there's people, holding the reins, pulling the strings, but there are certain people who have more access to more things, more comedians to book, more agents to talk to, more rooms to book, those kind of things. When you're first starting out, you don't have that. You kind of have to sit back and go, okay, well, I got to figure out how this stuff is going, who's working what.
But what you're saying though is it's true. There's in the comedy community, there's kind of a hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
Like there's probably 3-4 people that are the most respected among your peers.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you piss one or two of those people off, and you're in for you got a long road to hoe.
Now, I will say this, and that doesn't mean free will to everyone, but we're at least the Quad City community. We're pretty forgiving. We're not too strict about stuff. People can say stuff. You get shunned by an audience. That's we're gonna hesitate.
You got both ends of the belief coin in the Quad Cities.
But
you've got a lot of.
Understand this is such a small community. It's not like we have a ton of resources. The few of us who do, the few of us who have been around, who have gotten to meet and work with a lot of different comedians, have. Okay, so Joe Schmo doesn't like me over here at whatever bar. Okay, that's fine. I've got these places to book, So if I get shunned by Joe, who gives a shit, right? But you get shunned by so-and-so, and he's got this room and that room and that room, and he's booking this guy and that guy and that guy. I'm not going to get booked on his shows. That hurts me, right? So, yeah, you have certain things. We're not necessarily going to call the entire comedy community, hey, never book this guy because I had a bad experience with him. Some guys, I'll see that on Facebook. Some guys will be like, look, I had this bad experience from this one guy, never book him, and tell everybody in the entire state of Illinois.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long to.
And, depending on what you're saying or what you're doing, how you're treating people, it's justified. There's guys out there that are real dicks. I mean, real dicks. And
and that's their real life, and that's their bit too.
And so people try and warn you. But then you got other guys that'll say the wrong thing. They're a decent person, but they say the wrong thing, and then all of a sudden this guy is like, well, he offended this crowd, and he's just this awful person, and it's like, he tried a joke. It didn't go great. Give him a break. It's not a big deal. You got other guys that are going to go up there and. There's an entire spectrum. I mean, from good to bad to smart to dumb. It is so wide, the range.
Do you think that the cadence of stand-up comedy has had to change a little bit due to how fast people blow through reels when they watch their phone? Do you feel like the attention level isn't where it was possibly 10 years ago?
Yeah.
When you're taking somebody down a road.
Yeah. I mean, if you're, posting videos or anything like that, you need to be quick. You need set up, punchline, done. Because like you said, they're only going to take 2-3 seconds. If, was it Steve Hostetter? Unless you know who that is, you're going to just skip past him every time because he's on this long spout, roasting somebody who was heckling or something in the audience, and he's got a reel out there that's 20 minutes long because he's roasting and justifying the roast about so and so. He's not just telling a joke; he's going into this whole spiel about the comedy show that he did. Whereas another guy is going to say, blah blah, set up, punchline, done. You get those. Kill Tony is fucking huge because he does only like 2-minute sets, I think. And so people go out there and just immediately, I have to hit up.
Does Kill Tony have a shelf life?
I think so.
I think Kill Tony, his star, I like his stuff, but also I just tend to shy away from anything that feels mean in general. Like you can rib somebody and razz. I just feel like that sort of shock type comedy, the star burns hot and you're running the risk of your light bulb burning out. Like he's done a couple big events where it was kind of like, it almost felt like maybe didn't quite hire enough people to research the audience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got enough money to research it. If you're doing a roast at WrestleMania and the WWE takes all your content off the platform. Yeah. Like, it's like, man, you got enough money. Hire some people to say, hey, bring me into their WWE ecosystem. Help me understand who's going to be hearing this. And I think that was the polar opposite of what they got.
Yeah,
Monday morning quarterback. Let me be clear about that. I mean,
and that show, that format, it works. And people are trying to copy it, which tells me pretty soon it's going to die out. That, to me, in my mind, it looks like it's got its steam and everything else, and I feel like it's kind of at its peak right now to where it's going to start dying off. And he's going to want to do other things. He doesn't want to do this his entire life. He's not going to want to just do Kill Tony. He's going to want to do, and same with the other guys that are on that show. They don't want to just be the sidekick. I can't remember everybody on there. They have guests and stuff.
Oh yeah, and it's great.
There's another guy that's always with
I think they'll go for a while. I mean, it's a good thing, but you know where we're getting at with that.
Yeah, I mean, just like any show.
Let me ask you this, talking about being mean. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this last night while I was working out. That was pointless for me to say while I was working out, by the way. Like, there was no reason for me to just last night.
It puts us there.
And furthermore, there was no reason for me to say I was thinking about this. Of course I was thinking about it because I couldn't verbalize it if I was. Anyway, okay. Isn't it harder to be nicer to somebody that you don't like versus being nice to somebody that you do like? And what I mean by that, obviously the answer is yes, right? But what I mean by that, if you look at the comic scenario, new guy on the scene, mm-hmm. comes in, pisses everybody off, bombs his set. Same night, new guy on the scene, pleasant to everybody, bombs the set. Both of them are brand new. Mm-hmm. The right thing to do is to go up to both of them and try to understand their point of view and try to help both of them and elevate them up. But pretty much all of us are just going to gravitate right towards the nicer kid and say, hey, man, let me give you a few pointers here, versus this guy. We're like, man, good luck to him. And it's hard because we as people it shouldn't matter which one.
Right.
They're both trying to do they both have a goal, and we could potentially help them.
I think what you have there is the nice guy is more likely to listen, whereas the other one is doing his own thing regardless. I've worked with other comedians, and you've been in that situation. The nice guy is going to listen to your advice. He's going to talk to you. He's going to keep, asking things. He's going to want to go do things. The asshole is going to say, I know everything already, and they're going to figure it out themselves. This person, that new guy I was telling you about, with the insults and stuff, he got done with his set and he left. When you're doing a mic, any comedy, there's more to this than just writing and telling jokes. You have to network with these other comedians so that you can have an opportunity to get on another stage or to be on a show, to get a paying opportunity.
People have to vouch for you.
Yeah. You need to watch these other comedians to know, okay, well, I don't want to sound like that guy. I don't want to come up and repeat his joke and that kind of thing. Oh, maybe I should get rid of this joke, or I got to tell it differently because that's, he's out there with that joke. You want to stick around. You want to learn every time as an opportunity to learn and to network with other comics and learn from them and work with them. And when you show up and do your set and leave, everyone knows, okay, well, screw that guy. He doesn't, he knows everything. There's no reason for me to go search him out and give him advice because obviously he doesn't want it. Whereas the nice guy is going to stick around and try and get to know people. And then if you talk to him, he's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe take a note and
Probably.
Probably. That's the mentality, at least usually that I have when I see that happen.
Well, yeah, and there again, you can always revert back to can't help someone that doesn't want to help themselves, and so on and so forth. And but sometimes I think to myself, well, maybe the dickhead just needs it more. Maybe he just. And but maybe
that's
not.
Where I encourage keep coming out, because then maybe you break that exterior and you can talk to some people. Just like any other job, any other career, you need to know people in that career so that you can work with them, so you can find out.
Yeah.
There's venues that you're like, oh, as a comedian, you should know that already, that these other places exist, and then. To be in it for 3 months and then find out about, like a Broken Saddle, like a Skylark, at least here in the Quad Cities, the Renwick, that's something as a comedian you should absolutely know of that place. They do open mics, they do these great shows that pull people through, national touring comedians who you have an opportunity as a nobody. Not only am I an amateur comedian, but I'm an amateur nobody comedian. Nobody knows or cares.
Is there a group? Not to interrupt.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, but if I'm a young up and coming comedian, is there a Facebook group I can join? Is there some sort of thing I can just?
There are groups. There's classes. There's
give me one. Give me one specifically. Let's say today I want to embark on having some friends in the stand-up comedy world, and what can I plug into right now?
What location are you looking for?
Say Quad Cities.
Okay, there's Quad City Comedians page. There's Iowa Comics.
There is a Quad City Comedian page. Yes. Can you pull that up, Casey?
There's Quad City Comedians page.
We're going to join it. We're going to join it right now.
Well, here's the thing. A few of us get on there, and I'm probably gonna have to approve of your friend request.
Oh, that's fine.
I guess I'm an administrator, and once in a while I get those, and I'm like, oh yeah.
So this is at Quad City Stand Up Comedy.
Quad City. Oh yeah.
No, that's a page. Where's a group?
There's Quad City Stand Up Comedy. There's Quad City Comedians.
There's the group we want. Yeah.
There's Iowa Comedians.
Well, we'll try to find it.
There's a Quad City Comedians page. There's Central Illinois Comics. There's several different ones. If you look up Quad City,
is that the best way to get plugged in? That's where all the stuff's going to be posted.
They'll post the open mics and shows and stuff that go on. If you are someone who's interested in doing comedy and performing comedy, I would look up local venues, look up local, like the Quad City Comedians, things like that post these events going on. Go check them out. Watch these comedians do what they do in the venues that are available to us. you can go see, or like I said, you can network. You're not performing yet. Get to know some of the comics. Hey, where else do you perform? You do open mics. Yeah, okay. Well, where do you perform an open mic? All right, well, maybe I'll see you there. Now you got an in. You go and you talk to somebody. Hey, oh, cool, I can see you again. And then you can talk to them about your expectations or whatever, and they'll ease or make you more scared when you talk to them.
Can I say something? Well, by the way, before I do, plug your stuff. What do you want to plug?
Just, I'm on Facebook, James Draper, or James Draper -comedian. I'm on there. Do I have an album out? I recorded an album, but I don't think I have it out for sale or anything. I have a book on Amazon called Scare Up a Joke.
Really?
Yeah, I wrote and illustrated a book.
Scare Up a Joke?
Scare Up a Joke. It's there are 12 classic jokes that we've all heard, but they're made up to be horror stories. They're little short horror stories.
This is all your stuff?
Yeah. Well, they're based off of classic jokes, like Knock Knock Who's There.
Okay, and you make it into a Halloween type, like kids book?
It's like a kids book, but it's for adults. Yeah,
oh, really?
There's a couple of stories with some cussing in it, so it's funny when
this is it.
Yeah, when the publisher
Look at you.
originally put it on there, it said what did it say, up to 13 years or something like that. I'm like, no. I said, if you could put it like 16 and older, then that would be great. And she's like, well, all I can do is 18 or older. I'm like, cool, do that.
That's so cool. You wrote a book.
Yeah, like I said, I've got them out in my car right now, and I meant to bring that and a koozie, even my T-shirt. I've got a T-shirt.
I get a book today?
Yeah, I'll give you a book.
You have to sign it. You have to sign it. Yeah. I'll use the koozie. I'll display the book after I read it.
I meant to. Yeah. It's a really short read. Like I said, they're 12 very short stories, 1 or 2 pages, like little Reader's Digest type of horror stories, but they're based off classic jokes.
I will read them.
Why the Chicken Crossed the Road, Knock Knock, Blonde Brunette and the Redhead. That picture there is kind of one of the images that I've got for the story there.
Thank you. And I'll put it up in here.
Yeah. Like I said, I was so worried about getting here that once there's the place. I just walked up to the door.
That's so
forgot
cool.
To grab.
Yeah, we'll hang it up in here. I do have to tell you, James, I appreciate you coming in here with no expectations other than me, having you on because you do stand-up comedy. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you coming in here and not feeling like you had to be like, hey, you know what I mean? Because comedians will do that sometimes almost as I don't know if it's nerves or if it's just whatever, but I appreciate you just being real and coming in and hanging out, and we'll get to all kinds of ho-hos down the road. And now you got me all juiced up on maybe getting back up on stage. I think I might want to do some stuff. So, and I'll be nice to everybody when I come too.
Yeah.
I'll be nice to all the talent backstage.
That's helpful. Because then people definitely want to mingle with you and talk to you. And that's the other great thing about you can be as funny as you want, but if you're not likable, what's it matter? Nobody, everyone's going to go,
Yeah.
I mean,
I struggle with that every day. How can I be likable?
Here's a good example. I hate to say this in front of everybody, but Carrot Top, I find very funny. He's not hilarious. He's not someone I'm going to go pay $80 to go, to the Mark and go see, but I think he's a pretty funny guy. But I think something about him was completely unlikable. And so like he pulled a Joe Piscopo, got, all, and then not luckily, I mean, he worked really hard. He put all this stuff together, very smart with the props that he does and stuff. But I will say, luckily, he has a residency there in Vegas.
Yeah, so he's getting paid regardless.
He doesn't have to drive all over.
That's the gravy train with biscuit wheels right there, man.
That sounds amazing. Every night, different crowd.
Yeah, just get on the elevator and hit down and go do your thing.
I like that when I'm doing shows, and there's a few places that I'll do several times, or once or twice a year, where it's at the hotel. So I'll show up, and I love showing up early, and then I'm in my room, and I can shower and hang out, and just Yeah, I could basically barefoot go to the show and do my show and then walk back up to my room.
That's great.
I love that.
Well, James, I hope we get to hang out a lot more. I know we will. I think this has been fun. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, can I say, if you do, definitely have some more comics on from the Quad Cities here. We have a wonderful scene. Like
Tag
I said,
someone
it's
right
not
now.
very huge.
Tag someone right now,
Chris
James.
Schlichting.
Chris Schlichting.
Chris Schlichting. Donnie Townsend. Chris Starman. Like I said earlier, he's another one that
Give me one. Give me one. Who am I tagging right now?
Chris Schlichting.
Chris Schlichting.
He's probably the number one. He books and runs the Renwick Mansion shows. Him with Dane and Sarah Moulton. Who own the place, and they do weddings and all that stuff there. Anyway, Chris is probably, he wouldn't admit it, but he's probably the number one. When we were talking about hierarchy, he's the guy. He's the one. I'd put myself either second or third, somewhere there with Donnie, and then it keeps. But you put on the years. You do well at the shows. Every time you see Chris, he's killing. It's not like he goes up there and tries a couple things. I mean, he just constantly kills. Donnie's the same way. You watch him and just crush all the time. I do fairly well every time I go up. So it's one of those things. I love this community, and it's great because we get to work on our craft, and whether we kill or we bomb, it's not going to matter until you get in front of these huge crowds and do those kind of things. We are so lucky. The Quad Cities, when I was a kid, there was nothing here at all for comedy. Zero. When I was 19, I asked a guy who was working the one comedy club in the area, and he said, you have to go to these other places if you want to be a comedian. We now have the opportunity that if you're from the Quad Cities, you can get on stage, you can work on your craft, and then take it somewhere else. Before, it was work on it somewhere else to bring it here. Maybe we'll like you.
What's the website to this joint?
Which joint?
The one you're talking about, the manor, the
Renwick Mansion. Yeah.
That's what we're talking about,
Renwick
right?
Mansion. I was just talking about the scene.
Just the scene, but the mansion's like is that
the
one of the
mansion, the Speakeasy it's probably the two best stages in the Quad Cities to check out, to go see or be.
When's your next show? Before we run out of RAM.
Shit.
Before we run out of RAM.
My next show, it's in Bloomington.
When do you have a Quad City One booked yet?
Well, actually, I should say tomorrow, Wednesday at Skylark, doing the open mic.
Plug it like it's a commercial.
Every Wednesday at Skylark in Rock Island, 8 o'clock showtime, 7 o'clock doors, $5 BYOB. So if you bring your own beer, it's $5 or $10. If you're an audience member, $5 or $10.
And you'll be there tomorrow night.
I'll be there tomorrow night.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's 2% off if you mentioned Joe Brameyer Presents at the door. Yeah, if you go to see James. James, this has been fun. Thanks,
Thank you,
man.
Joe.
We'll do this again, and we'll get Chris Schlichting in here.
Try and get Chris in here. Yeah, he's definitely another one to talk to. He'll have a few more videos and things to look at too.
Casey, you want to play us out of here? Can you play us out? We've never played out before. Maybe we can. Oh, there it is. We need a see you later from Joe Brameyer Present. Yeah, we need another one.